Nursery is not appropriate for people under the age of 18 years of age. Go to thirdclass.net and bullskit.com.
The nursery and all of the trees cross over the dark, and some old parking lots hold my whimpering thoughts, and I'm on the next train. You and me, can't you see what this means? In the light of a torch, realize nothing is forced, nothing is forced.
Welcome to WTF Podcast.
Wrong one. That's the wrong podcast.
The Nerdist.
Closer.
Oh shit, those are the only two I know.
Oh.
I know, I'm
Not
not
very
a
good.
big podcaster. Welcome to
He's lying.
Nursery. The Nursery Podcast. Ohio's creative voice. Northeast Ohio's creative voice. Well, it's the creative voice of our friends. Actually, it's just the voice of our friends. It's not necessarily that creative. Nursery Podcast. You've already tuned out. Goodbye. No, we are here. This is Craig Beight. I've taken over hosting duties because we're all sick of Lee. But he's going to participate
Right there.
in the podcast.
I'm right
Thank you,
here, man.
Lee and Greg freaking Allison are here. Freaking?
Hi.
Thank you. Thank you, freaking.
I know. I contribute so much.
We're actually right now we're sitting in the backyard of Lee's house while Pepe and Ellen, yeah, that's right, Lee's wife, is building him an elliptical machine in their living room.
It's because he's a fatty.
So that's where we're at, and we thought we'd maybe have a little bit of conversation. What's going on in everybody's life?
Oh, hey,
Catch
man.
up the podcast viewers because they're very anxious to know exactly where we're at in this phase of our lives. What's been going on with you, Lee? Tell us. What is going on?
I've recently taken a trip to Columbus, Ohio.
That's awesome. Freaking, how about you, bud?
I'm here in Youngstown, Ohio. I don't live here, so I guess that's a trip. But I'm here to go to the dentist on Monday, so that's not very interesting whatsoever. I'm sorry, listeners. I'm so sorry.
You know, we're the only three that'll be listening, so it's okay. I forgive you. I forgive you. It's all good.
I will not.
Nope, you never do. You never do.
I don't listen when I edit them. Just, paste, send, copy, even in the wrong order. They just come out so bad because I don't do it.
So fun, I was just thinking, is this the first time that, like you asked me right before we started this, so, direct the podcast or just ask the questions or whatever, however you want to call it, host it. Is this the first time that someone else has really done that, or has someone else taken charge?
No, this is the first time. I think our friend Tim Smiley, who does music under the name Icarus Flew.
Wait. That's Tim Smiley?
Yes.
I thought, oh my God, that's who Icarus Flew is. My God.
And he's going to do one that's like a kind of a proper version where he sits me down and interviews me,
Oh, cool.
and he'll do my set
Is
of
it going to be
questions.
under your podcast? Or is it
It'll
gonna
be
a
mine.
Nursery
Yeah, it'll be
podcast?
mine. So he'll do
Sweet.
it. But I figured with you, if you're the host now, maybe you could ask some new questions if you want. I don't know what you even want to know, but if you want to ask us some weirder, deeper ones, I'll answer, and so will Greg probably. So I don't know. If you have anything at all, man, you dig deep and see if, I don't know.
Dig deep.
Yeah.
Well, first off, I got to ask you, what, if you could only listen to one record or take one piece of music with you on an island, what would it be? And then after you give your answer, I will explain why your answer is good, even if it's probably really sucks. I'll just agree with you that it's awesome.
So are we going full album here, not just a song? Because that will make it a little bit
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
interesting.
Are you talking album instead of song now?
Let's do full album.
Okay, go ahead, man.
Give me a second to think.
Okay, I'll
You don't have to. Didn't we already? Hasn't everyone answered this?
This
Did
song,
you answer?
it's an individual song, not a full album. Though.
now we're doing album.
Ah, shit. See, now I took a tangent to that. I made a joke, and now I've created the tangent that I didn't even really
Greg and
want
I
to do
took
now.
it serious.
God damn.
Okay, so
Go ahead.
my answer,
I opened the door. Go.
my answer is usually a song called "Broom People" by the Mountain Goats, but if
I already
it
hate
came,
this question. No, I'm sorry. Just kidding.
if it came to the album, an album that might be the same album, the Sunset Tree. It might be just as simple as that. Though that's a pretty short album, and it might be a real bother to like have a short album always at your disposal when you could choose a really long one. But
Yeah.
I'll probably just stick it with simple stuff. But let me just give you an array of my options, just so you know what.
An
what
array?
What an idiot I am. Like, these are my top
Okay.
few I would take. Is Sunset Tree by the Mountain Goats, The Rebirth of Venus by Ben Lee, Bryan Adams' self-titled album.
Bryan Adams.
Bryan Adams, not Ryan Adams.
Right. Wait,
Rachel
write this
McAdams.
down. Is that RYAN?
No, BRYAN, believe it or not, from 1980, I believe, and then or 81. Maybe Undone by the Roots, which came out in like 2011 or 12.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's like the only rap one that would probably be in there. I love rap, but unfortunately there's barely a cohesive album in the genre, even with all the great songs. Like, there's just not that many albums that like actually flow right with rap. And then maybe like just most of them are straight laced like pop rock. Like, most of them are Huey Lewis and the News, like self-titled, Bryan Adams self-titled, like a lot of like that real straight like poppy. Ben Lee is also included in that genre. So it's like, it's a little weird, but I think even with how simple and quick you would catch on, I just want really good vibes to take to an island. I don't think I'd take anything lengthy, deep, depressing, or complicated. Maybe the only album I would take that would be super like deep and difficult would be Benji by Sun Kill Moon. That guy's pretty weird.
Yeah.
And it's a little hard to handle him sometimes, but that'd be one of the only ones because the lyrics are so good. But maybe give me so it's not so
Sounds like
hard, give
you're
me a
not-
possibility.
With all the
Yeah.
albums you're taking, it sounds like you're not going to have room for anything else.
Yeah, I can
You'll
only
have
take
a bunch
one.
of albums with nothing to play them on, and you'll be thinking about how.
And what
all
else?
the vibes-
What is it that we would bring to an island otherwise? Exactly. What are the stipulations in all this?
That's not part of the question. Let's freaking answer the question.
Okay.
You're going off on one of your tangents. Let's freaking answer his part of the question, and then we can answer that ridiculous question afterwards. Go ahead, freaking.
How much
I'm in charge
room
here.
would I have if I'm? No.
I had to pull out my Spotify, but Aim at Ignite by Fun, which was their first album. It's
Okay.
really good. And I've listened to it. Again, it's like the last time. I've listened to it a million times because I like it so much.
And
So
that's
I know I
kinda
won't
like
get sick of it.
A pop.
Oh
like a
yeah,
good
it's a pop rock album. Yeah.
selection. Okay.
Probably like Heart of Nowhere, that Noah and the Whale album is really good.
Okay, that's a good one.
And Modern Vampires of the City by Vampire Weekend would be good too. So it's along the same vein of what you
like
were
the
saying.
modern version of what I was saying, kind of like
Pretty much,
like a
yeah.
more slick version of my selections.
Pretty much,
Yeah.
yeah. Rap album. Good Kid, Mad City by Kendrick Lamar would be in there, or the one Kanye West album with all the lights or whatever. Which one is that? I can't think of it.
Yeah, I know the one you mean.
I've listened to it a million times,
Right.
but
Monsters or something, right?
well,
Something with
the song Monsters.
Oh,
on
that's
it,
it.
too. yeah.
God, you sound like old guys. My deep,
I know.
dark, twisted something.
Yeah, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy.
yeah.
That's it. Yeah, that's a good-
Okay. You named two rap albums that at least come close to being cohesive.
Yeah,
The Kendrick Lamar one has a couple of those weird little intros that are good, though.
Yeah.
And then what I believe they do, like verbal intros that aren't songs.
yeah, they
And
do
then-
some of that. Yeah,
The Kanye one is, I'm not like a huge fan of the songs, but the way it flows is awesome.
yeah,
It's like,
definitely.
you could definitely get lost in it.
And there's nothing better than like that one part when Chris Rock's like that's the part where he's like they overhear him on the phone talking to like Kanye, who's supposed to be Kanye's girlfriend, about like how pretty much talk about how he had sex with her and all that stuff. That's awesome.
Some interludes are cool. I guess I have a bad view of interludes because for whatever reason I grew up listening to all the ones on the Bad Boy label, which were all bad. Like all the interludes on all B.I.G. albums and all Puffy albums were not, I don't know, they just weren't that imaginative, and they were always just like people.
You're old, man.
Yeah, man. and I guess the one you're talking about isn't necessarily that imaginative either. It's just
I know.
sex, violence, and money. But I don't know. Sometimes they're fun. But are you gonna answer it too, Craig?
Holy shit! I didn't even have remotely
Rolling Stones?
an answer. No.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe you'd choose something from the 70s or
I mean,
Let It Bleed or something.
you guys have pretty concise answers. I have no. That'd have to be something I'd have.
You would probably at least take. Here's one I can throw at you that you'd agree.
What do you think I would take?
I think
What
you
do
would
you
take,
guys think I would take as far as
Yeah.
albums go on the Desert Island?
I definitely think, and I would take Physical Graffiti, but I think you would take the Led Zeppelin album before that album.
Houses of the Holy.
Yeah, that's a
probably.
great album. Yeah.
I have that on
Probably.
vinyl. It's good.
And it's shorter than Physical Graffiti, but it has a bunch of moments that are lengthy enough that you don't get sick of it.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah. If I'm gonna take. Oh, it's starting to rain.
You want to go under the tree?
No, it's going to the tree.
It's in the tree.
Podcast. Moving.
There. Okay.
We'll probably still get really wet.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess my brain breaks it down into. If I had to pick one album from a particular band to take with me, I know which album I would take, but I don't know how to reduce it down to like what you guys did. That
Yeah.
was crazy. That was crazy quick. How you guys just whiffed off. Like, well, I would take this random album Craig doesn't know, and this other album that Craig doesn't know,
Yeah.
and 6 more albums that Craig has never heard of before. And I'm sitting. Notice how I was silent during that whole.
Yeah, well, it's hard.
conversation you
It's
guys
hard
had. I
now
was like,
these
"What?"
days to name albums because people make playlists so much. So
True.
even for me and Greg, it was a challenge. So it's understandable if you can't name them immediately.
Yeah.
True. I think a lot of people would have difficulty doing it. I think I'm more the norm for people in terms of being able to riff that off, because you guys ripped those off pretty quickly. I was like,
The ones,
well, shit.
the ones I name
really
are
don't
albums I know I can listen to front to end, like, because I have done it a million times. It's not like ones where you can pull
Yeah.
it out a song and put it into a playlist. It's like better to listen to it all the way through.
Right.
Is this rain going to cause too much background noise?
No, but it'll just make us wet. We can go inside for the rest of it.
Let's go
I
inside.
mean, I like the noise. I liked it on that other one we did.
Yeah.
Here, if you want, you can leave. You can just leave them. That's fine.
Is it still recording?
Yeah. Why is Jeremy's collar back on?
I put it back on.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know it was supposed to be off.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Let's see. I should let Jeremy out there. No one cares about him.
Just for the sake of sound.
Okay.
That's all. The only reason I did that. Okay. We can lay down here. Wait.
Indian stuff.
Yeah, Indians. They're actually. Yeah. I'll use this again.
Are you going to cut this part out, or are you going to leave it on?
I'll leave it. Welcome to Nursery.
So if I can redirect from what we were just talking about, because
Yeah,
I don't
definitely.
think anyone gives a shit about what albums I would take to it.
Yeah,
I think
that's true.
I would obviously die very quickly. I wouldn't make it very long anyway, so it's kind of a pointless question.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking about, of course this is just an easy question to ask, but I'm thinking about previous podcasts, and obviously Lee, you've been, it's your podcast, you've been on every podcast, and you've told a lot of stories, but I'm sure there has to be a story or some sort of topic that you haven't covered at all.
Yeah.
So when I'm going to ask this question right now. What's one story that you've been semi-uncomfortable about telling on the podcast that's popped up in your head before, and you realize that you kind of held back somewhat, and it's like, I don't know if I'm going to go down that route.
Okay, here's one. It's kind of short, and I think that's part of my hesitation in telling it is that I don't want to blow your minds with anything. I'm fine with a story that just kind of gets just some slight interest, so I wasn't worried about the perception, but I was worried that the length of the story didn't match the did not match the gravity of how serious it was. So like when I was a kid, when me and my brother Jack were following my grandpa around, and he was mowing the lawn, and me and my brother Jack were following him with toy lawnmowers, which we used to do with our dad a lot. Or maybe we didn't have toy lawn. We were following him with toys.
Okay.
And
you guys were both real, like how old do you think?
I was probably 8,
Right.
and Jack was probably 6, and possibly 9 and 7. And my grandpa, my mom's dad, was probably in his 60s, and he was mowing. It was super hot out. He had smoked for most of his life. He had that kind of pinkish red tone to him because he was just like weathered, worn, old, high blood pressure, and that runs in my family. But we were following him, and once we followed him just like around the corner of my garage, and he immediately just like popped backwards and fell back on his back and died right there. Right away.
Jeez.
And I think it was such a quick instance that he did die that it's hard. Telling the story isn't emotionally hard for me. It's a sad story, and I feel sad when I tell it. But the idea of how quick he went kind of leaves a lot of the drama out that you think would be part of it. Like we were so young that we don't. That my way I tell it now is very simple. Jeremy,
Shut up, Jeremy.
Jeremy, you're ruining the moment, buddy.
You little jerk.
I see what you mean in terms of it being a short story where you can't really.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty quick and to the point.
It
It's
was
a
quick,
serious
yeah.
moment, but there isn't much else you can
yeah,
Say
and
about
I don't know what
describe
it,
about the situation.
yeah, I don't know what it applies to necessarily. It doesn't really have to apply to anything. It probably does something for someone listening, but it was an interesting thing because I think he was dead when he hit the ground. But it was interesting how much happened after that. Like my mom came out and gave him mouth to mouth. My neighbor called 911. The ambulance was there. My grandma came out and turned the lawnmower off. But like I never knew how to fit that into a podcast because it's an unusual thing.
Yeah.
But
Why do you think? Do you remember how you reacted as a kid?
Yeah,
Like, do you remember
I mean-
being like especially freaked out, or really maybe not even really understanding exactly what's happening?
It was a pretty unlucky time in life because my dad died not long after, and I remember I can say for both those instances, my dad died of skin cancer. That both times I kind of processed it as much as the most out of the 3 brothers, but still to know level that like our friend Corey, his dad died in 2009 when Corey was in his 20s, and he was able to process completely what happened. So to me,
How old would you have been when your dad died?
9. So we were all around, and I've heard stories of people around the age of 6 or 7 having the worst time when any family member dies, and my brother Jack probably had the worst time dealing with probably maybe both those deaths compared to Steve, who was way too young to understand.
How
And
old would Steve have been?
he was 4.
Okay.
And me, who
very
was
young.
just past the cusp where it became cognitively feasible, but you know, I think somewhere like Jack being 6 or 7, for some reason, I should read up on this, but I think that's the hardest to take.
You think there was just based on your specific ages
and I don't mean to say
that made Jack
that
maybe
age.
more inclined to deal with that
That
situation
and just
differently?
personality. It's you don't want to pin it all on one thing, but yeah. But I wondered if being young enough to be like, hey, my grandpa died, and say it matter of factly and not totally get it. Like, was that I don't know how that applies to like any of the people I've interviewed or podcasts, because as much as it sounds like we're talking about death, we don't really talk about it that much on the podcast. So like, I guess the closest thing we ever did is there's a podcast, listeners, if you ever go back through the library, there's one called Pokes and Cadavers that also features these two.
Yeah.
Of course, the two of us on there. Of course,
So maybe that's what brings it out in me to tell this story.
Podcast.
Yeah,
Me
yeah.
telling a story about it.
Maybe that's what made me tell you this story just now, is because for some reason I'm pretty comfortable with Greg and Craig talking about death. So it's interesting because if you ever go back and listen, whoever's listening now, if you go back and listen to Pokes and Cadavers, we don't really get deep to the morality, but we talk a lot about what defines animal cruelty, and we talk a lot about like scientific views on death, and we talk about like cadavers of human beings too. So it definitely gets like conceptual in like what we think of that, and there's
I think a
four
lot of
us.
it, that conversation was more, like I remember when I was telling the story, I wasn't just focusing on the fact that I work with cadavers, but
No.
I found it interesting just how everyone specifically reacted in the moment, with me sort of just kind of springing this pretty unique situation
you
on
remember
guys.
everything vividly from that. You remember
It's-
everything.
yeah, it's a
more than
very
I
vivid
remembered it.
memory.
Yeah. More than I even did. And I know I joked that I suppressed that, but I don't think that was actually the case. I think like you got to see, you had way more attention focused on that because you'd seen the cadavers before.
Right.
And like, so you got to watch my face and our friend Pepe's face when we saw like dead bodies that had been sawed in half. It's
Yeah,
scary.
I think it sticks out in my head, that story, because it's one of the few moments where I saw all of you guys like collectively completely out of place and unsettled by the entire situation.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, there's different spots in life where different moments happen and someone can be unsettled or rattled or whatever. But it was like a collective group, like, holy shit! Why did you bring us down here, Craig? This is messed up. This is weird. Oh, I can't look at that. Oh, no, don't bring that brain over here. Oh, no, I can't step in the room.
Yeah.
I gotta stand out in the hallway here in front of the room. I can't actually stand in the room while Craig is in there, even though it doesn't matter if I take one step into the room. That has no bearing on me being that much closer to anything, but it was funny. I don't know if it was Steve or Pepe or someone literally had to stand outside of the room and they weren't willing to.
I don't think Steve
that extra
happened to
step.
be there, but Pepe, I think it's Pepe.
Anyways, instead of rehashing that whole story, go to the what was the name of that episode?
Oh yeah, guys, go listen to Pokes and Cadavers.
Yes.
It has a lot of stories on it.
Yeah.
From one or two instances from my brother Jack, and then I think that's the same episode,
Yeah.
even if it's not.
I know part of that conversation included the three of us and Pepe too.
And
that
Pat,
one was
at least I know
my
that
place.
much. Yeah, I know that
We
much.
recorded that.
Yeah.
So yeah, but
I'm
that
gonna
was in Cleveland.
Redirect the question over to Freakin' then. You've been on a number of podcasts now too, so I don't know if you had that moment where you thought about sharing a story, or maybe not, but was there any moment that you felt like a story popped in your head and then you're like, I'm not going to go down that route? Or if not, is there something right now as I ask you the question that just pops in your head that
I guess
you might be inclined not to talk about, that I'm going to make you talk about now? Or
Yeah.
hurt you? I'm just kidding.
I guess what I was thinking about was last night I was hanging out with Jack and we were talking about how we all did like cool stuff whenever we were at least I was like high school, you guys were probably like still in college then, and about how we used to do like cool like
Pepe went in.
pool hopping and crazy stuff like that. But then Jack like never did any of that stuff. He just like watched us and was like, stupid. But then like now it seems like way cooler to him just because he didn't do it. But I don't know, we just did stuff that seemed like none of it was actually harmful in any way, but just because we were doing it late at night or whatever, like pool hopping people's houses, or that one time when we changed the cups on the fence that they like put inspirational words or quotes on for the football team. We changed
I remember when you guys. I wasn't part of that, but I remember when
We
you
changed
guys
it to
did
a
that.
penis.
No, poop.
Poop.
Pepe just joined the podcast.
Yeah. Pepe Parish joined the podcast. Where Craig is kind of technically, and maybe not so technically, our host today, and he's asking us of stories that we always think of telling and don't.
You guys are talking about Jack being like too mature when we were younger, and now he's the immature one.
Yes.
Well, just about because we were talking about that last night about all that cool, stupid stuff like pool hopping, or Steve and I like toilet papered the high school once, and like a bunch of like crazy. It's not like super crazy, but it's still like thinking now about it. It seems like weird that we did all that stuff.
Jumping in everybody's pool. That was a weird idea. We'd always have a designated driver to drive us off after we cannonballed random people's pools.
Yeah.
Just as
which
a
was so
side
much
note,
fun, but weird.
pretty much everything that Frequent was just describing of stuff that was done, I participated in maybe like 20% of that.
That's true.
I didn't do a lot. I didn't do a a lot of
No.
that stuff. I don't know why. It wasn't like I was like,
I guess Steve and I were in high school, and you were like away in college, probably.
probably that was a big part.
But it still
Yeah.
seems so weird that like, not that we were like super calm now in comparison or anything, but it's like doesn't seem like we were that crazy in high school, but we did some weird stuff like
Well,
that.
nothing's this systematic, but it leads me to believe that, like, you, me, a lot of our friends, including Steve, who's been on the podcast before, Pepe, Brandon, have had wild oats sown, and Craig and Jack
Yeah.
have not yet to have that happen. Jack is doing it now. Craig might do it when he's 50. Or never. I'm not saying it has to work that way. It just intrigues me to think that maybe when you're like 60 or 70, there'll be this wild streak. That, like, you know,
Craig probably does crazy stuff in Cleveland when we're not there. He's like going to orgies and
and none of us are that wild. Again,
Just hold
Greg's-
on. You haven't
Greg's
let me
right,
tell
man.
my story that I'm not willing to tell you.
Yeah, tell it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the orgies. So
I think it
we'll
was.
get there. We'll get there.
I felt like it seems weird because back then, like, at least none of us like drank or smoked, but we did like weird stuff like that. That was like our rebellious thing to do.
So it's not that big. It's a pretty mild version of acting wild. I shouldn't define
Yeah.
it that way, but as a really nice like metaphor, when we were in Kent, we we interrupted somebody's classroom
Oh yeah, that was
in a
awesome.
lecture, and the group of people that did it were the people that got that attitude out of the way at the time.
Yeah.
It was basically a large amount of people that do something called Bullskit Productions, and they all ran into the classroom.
But I think it was just
and jumped
Pepe.
in. Right, but the people that were
Oh, but
organized
but
in
you
doing
like
it
yeah,
was
you walked
me, Pepe,
with Brandon.
So-
Brandon,
was-
and Steve. Those are
yeah.
all the people that
I was there
collectively-
as well.
Oh, were you?
I was
Yeah.
there, but
But
very similarly to the other stories we were telling, I was just standing off to the side a little bit, didn't participate
that's why I
at all.
don't remember it.
Yeah.
That's because yeah.
And then as you guys ran out after the whole thing took place, I just followed behind you guys. Went, oh my God, we did it!
Yeah.
I did nothing but.
And Greg even held the door. Greg had like an exit
Yeah.
strategy, but you were like more reserved.
Please
and
describe
like
the whole setup of what we actually
Okay,
did.
so what we did was we saw a classroom that was in session,
It's a big lecture hall. There's like a door at the top and also on the side.
Kent State University. We got our friend Pepe
Golden flashes.
to get onto an office chair with wheels and roll himself in the door. Two of us like dramatically opened the doors at the top of the lecture hall. Pepe entered the doors in an office chair, rode the office chair down the aisle among a very packed classroom, hit the stage with the chair, jumped off the chair onto the stage and yelled, "Bullskit.com, check it out!" And then jumped off the stage and ran out the door of the classroom, turned right, ran out the hallway door, and we all ran into the night.
Oh yeah.
And so, again,
If you would
we
like,
weren't sitting around doing heroin and buying hookers. I know we're not that weird.
and specific to that story, if you want to see it, you can go. You can
Yeah,
go on.
it's on
I don't know if
YouTube,
it's linked on bullskit.com.
I think it is. Yeah, it's on there.
directly.
Yeah.
Go to bullskit.com to look for the skit, or if not, you can also search on YouTube Bullskit Lecture Hall Interruption. It's
Yeah.
called.
It's
yeah, it was such a stupid stunt. But I remember even then I was like, "Why is this scary? I'll do it."
yeah.
And and then didn't we hear later that we knew somebody in that class, and she said they like canceled that class afterwards because the professor was like really upset.
Really?
Not permanently, but for the day they canceled it, and the professor, I believe, mistakenly thought that some of the students were in on the joke or something. So
I mean, I think you like it's so weird in the video because you walk in and you like the door slams. You're like, oh, sorry. And she's like, oh, it's okay. And then this thing just starts happening. It just goes downhill from there.
yeah. Oh, and to correct a mistake, Brandon Hall, who usually is in on stuff like that with us, wasn't.
Was
He was
he?
in class. He was in
Ah,
class.
that's right.
So
Oh,
it's maybe
right.
not such a great like representative of who does what, but it was definitely a point of us acting like.
And Brandon was
pranksters.
like, "Guys, I go here. You guys are gonna get me kicked
Yeah.
out of school."
"Well,
I mean, I went there at the time.
Yeah, I think that was probably why
I've like had classes in that.
I was so willing to do it. I was like, "I don't go here."
yeah." So maybe it's wrong for us to try to box in who's willing and who's not, but either way, Greg, if you're listening and you don't know any of us, it doesn't matter. Greg is describing a person who was reserved a lot of his life, and now is kind of like into like what we were into a few years ago. It's like an interesting thing to watch because like at the time he acted like a 50-year-old when he was 18, and now he's acting like an 18-year-old when he's 28 or 29. So it's an interesting thing.
You're only 29.
No.
You look awful.
No, we're talking about, I mean, referring to Jack, right? Yeah.
So I'm just thinking about the question. The question I had asked to start this whole chain of stories to Freakin' was, the question was what kind of stories were you?
I feel like I told.
Why would you? I'm just curious. Why would you were you uncomfortable going?
I mean, that was just what was on my mind. Like I told the like story that I don't tell to a lot of people on the lot whenever my podcast, because I told about the keg stand Greg thing and going to Anna Baker's party and stuff. So I told the like uncomfortable story already.
Right. Okay. So I'll maybe move it over to Pepe then. So the whole question, in case you didn't hear it since you just came in, was: has there been any sort of stories that you have that maybe popped up in your head as topics of conversations, but then you kind of steered away from maybe telling that story? Or is there something right now that's popping in your head as I?
Wait, in terms of what? Just like stories of my life in general?
Any
like an embarrassing story?
Anything that maybe was just in your head that for whatever reason you decided before, nah, I don't want to go there.
This guy's right behind you.
Okay, cool. I mean, I don't think this is really what you're asking for, but
it probably is.
I told some of this story at work yesterday because we were like riffing on each other, making jokes about when you're a little kid, when you pee with your pants around your ankles and you like tuck your shirt up under your chin.
Wait. You said so you put your pants down to your ankles, then you pull up your shirt?
Yeah, not me. Not me. I didn't do that. Did I already tell this story?
No.
Because I get the ankle thing. I don't ever remember pulling up my shirt to have.
I don't know. Some kids like
pulling my shirt up.
Some kids, as well as pulling their pants all the way down to their ankles, they also would like pull up their shirt and hold it with their chin.
About, yeah.
Really?
Maybe
I did that and I don't remember. Anyways, go ahead.
I totally was not one of those kids. Well, I didn't pull my pants all the way down, but I did pull always tuck my shirt under my chin when I was little when I would pee.
I never did that.
Because I was
it had to do with being a kid and wearing big shirts.
Yeah, here's the thing.
Kids do that.
I have an older brother, and I always got his hand-me-downs because we were too poor to buy new clothes and all that crap. Typical, so I always had big shirts on when I was little, so I always had to hold my shirt under my chin when I peed, so I didn't pee all over the bottom of it.
Right.
Anyways, first grade, I went to Jackson Elementary School in the south side of Youngstown, east side of Youngstown. I went to the bathroom in the middle of class because I had to pee. I was holding my shirt with my chin, and
You went to a restroom to pee? You didn't just...
I went to the restroom, yeah.
I don't know if that's where the story
No, this
was.
isn't an accident story. I have plenty of those, too.
Me too, yeah.
So I'm peeing at the urinal with my shirt tucked under my chin, and then it falls. I don't know if I turned to look at something or what, but my shirt fell and I peed all over the bottom of my shirt. So I stayed in the bathroom for a few minutes, just freaking out, being I can't go back to class with pee all over the bottom of my shirt. It's very obvious what happened. So I got this brilliant idea to go to the sink and just splash water all over the rest of my shirt, because then I'm well, then it's not obvious that it's just pee.
That's a pretty genius idea.
I'm pretty proud of that still, because it's pretty smart for being in first grade.
Yeah.
Right.
But at the same time, I just went back to class, all confidently acted like nothing happened, and I was drenched, and everybody was still just oh my God, what happened to you in there? And I was just what?
You're not cool unless you pee on your shirt.
I'm sweating a little bit. Whatever. So I don't know if that's what you mean by what you kind of were asking, but
I don't know. It's just, I was just thinking of anything that people were, was that actually a story that ran through your head at some point where you thought, nah, I'm not going to tell it for whatever reason?
yeah, I guess I'm usually pretty willing to tell that story. I don't know if there's anything I'm so embarrassed
Because I
about.
think everyone, all of us, all four of us here, and maybe someone will say no, but there has to be a story. There has to be something that, and it could even be something from a long time ago or something occurring in our lives right now. There has to be something that would make a semi-interesting topic on the podcast, but you're not going to share it. There has to be something. I know everybody
Yeah, you're
has.
probably right.
If I thought hard enough, maybe.
And I'm not even saying this as a means to try to get someone to just be like, and say that. I'm just saying that I think that just has to be the case because of human nature. So.
Well, I think the means of not using it had to do with being scared it wasn't interesting rather than being embarrassed half the time. Like, I think all of us are so open that, like, the reason for not telling the story isn't because you're embarrassed. It's because you're like, oh, this won't go well on.
I don't think there's necessarily. I'm not even thinking in terms.
They're
of
not really like
embarrassment.
juicy.
I'm thinking of stuff that just might be
Slipping
just
through
personally
the cracks.
personally uncomfortable to talk about. Like,
I actually have one, but I don't know if I want to tell it.
Yeah.
that's what I mean.
Okay.
You don't have to.
It's
tell
not
it.
even
Although,
that.
The fact that you're saying that makes me think that there's an inkling of a part of you that might be willing to share.
Alright.
If you are, then
No,
you
no.
don't
You can
have
edit
to.
it according.
No, I'll tell it. I'll tell
it.
it because it's not actually that embarrassing.
Okay.
The only reason it was so embarrassing at the time. Okay, I told everybody that it was something, and I'll just tell the story. It's so stupid, but okay. When I was in high school, I think it was I was in high school. I lived with Lee and Jack and Steve and Karen at the Boyle house, and I hated shaving my face. I just hated it because, like, we always had to use unscented things in Karen's house because she's allergic to, like,
Everything.
chemicals and stuff. Yeah. So, like, I always had, like, really bad shaving cream. It was, like, hard water there, and I always had, like, really bad razors. So, like, I would shave my face, and it would just get, like, really irritated and red, and I would cut myself up. So one day I was like, I'm gonna buy Nair for my face. And I thought it would work. I put Nair on my face, and it just, like, burned my face. I had, like, these chemical burns.
Oh, that's supposed to be like incredibly painful too.
Okay, so the next morning, everybody was like, "Oh my God, what happened to your face?" It just looked like I had, like, these, like, awful, like, rashes on my face, and I was like, "Oh my God, you guys wouldn't believe it, but, like, I got up in the middle of the night to pee, and I fell down the stairs, and the carpet on the stairs, like, gave me rug burn on my face." And
like a terrible
I remember,
excuse.
like, I know, and I remember Jack just, like, interrogating me and being like, "On both sides of your face, you got rug burn on both sides of your face," and I was like, it was a pretty bad fall, Jack. And, like, nobody was really buying it, but that's the only story I told for years, and I wrote a song about it.
Weird. I don't remember. Is
I
that
wrote
bad that I don't remember?
Yeah, I know, but I wrote a song called Rug Burn. And I talked about falling down the stairs and getting rug burn on my face.
I think I remember you writing a song, but I think that this must be the reason. I think that when you told me, I believed it instantly.
You were always, like,
Yeah.
totally cool with believing whatever. Not that that's a bad
Isn't
thing.
that weird? Yeah.
But I just remember, like, being so nervous because, like, I think it was, like, Jack and Derek or maybe Billy were like, "What the heck? You got rug burn on both sides of your face?"
That's
And it was
awesome.
just, like, so embarrassing because I was like, I don't know why, like, afterwards I was like, oh yeah, why would I possibly think that I could, like, just Nair my face? Like, if that was a thing, everybody would do it instead of shaving. So, yeah.
Nice.
That's awesome.
It's a good story.
That's neat that, like, as you got older, your excuses got worse too.
Yeah.
That, like, you're like, oh, I have water, I'm sweating, and that was, like, totally okay. Everybody was just like, he got water all over himself, and no one thought you peed on your shirt. And then when you got older, you were like, I fell down the stairs and I hit my face on both sides of the like, not
I
that.
fell down the stairs. Dude, you have rug burn on your face, man. The stairs. It was stairs, man.
You're like, dude, you just peed your pants. He's like, no, I fell down the stairs. I mean, I got him mixed up.
So, Craig, did you tell a story yet?
No.
There must be a reason that you brought this up.
No.
What's yours, man?
Dude, I don't
What have
have
you been waiting for?
don't have anything like.
Craig has
No,
one.
I'm-
He's backing out of it now.
Yeah, you have.
No,
to
I'm
have
not
some.
backing on. No. I'm not backing on anything. I'm trying to think. I mean, I have the little like embarrassing stories of stuff. Stuff like that happened at school. Like there's you just talking about peeing your pants at school. I mean, I remember like.
Poop in your pants.
Oh yeah, I remember
Yeah.
crapping my pants in even like middle school or something, like 6th or 7th grade, like way early in the day.
Oh man.
And
Yeah, I
then
remember
instead
that.
of
I did that. Or
Yeah.
peed. I peed in 6th grade and just sat in it. Like
I sat in my crap.
I don't care who you are. You have a accident at school story.
Yeah, I guess.
And if you don't, I'm telling myself you did to make myself feel better.
But it should have just like called up like. I could have just it was like first period or something. I should have just called off sick, and called or something just to go home. But instead, I just sat in my own crap all day.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like that's such a terrible decision.
Yeah.
Even for a 6th grader to make. I mean, just go home.
But
need to sit there.
don't have in your head that every single day they are waiting to deal with that. Like you don't realize that it happens like a handful of times every year
True.
in school per class.
For all
So
the-
that's
true.
why you try to hide it because you think that you're the only one that did it, like ever.
That's
Like-
you know what, you're right. That's probably the biggest.
For all the
People
6th
that agree
graders
with
listening to this podcast, you're not alone.
Go ahead and go ahead and poop yourself if you need to.
Be proud of
Think
it.
of
Poop right.
Poop freely in your pants.
I don't know if there's a topic that. I'm trying to think of a topic of.
We should get Pepe's album. Yeah, what we were talking about earlier. So instead of one song on an island,
Oh,
one
yeah,
album.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you think on that while he answers that.
Okay.
One album for the island, not song.
Oh, cool. Oh man, I'm an idiot.
And be like those two guys and list off like 11 different obscure albums.
Okay.
that never heard of.
Fiona Apple, When the Pond is one of my favorite albums of all time. Cigarettes Parentheses,
course.
Bright Eyes, I'm Wide Awake, It's Morning.
That's a good one.
Have you listened back recently?
No.
I've completely kicked that off my favorite, like anything.
Yeah, I'm not listening to the album for years because I don't want to kick it off my.
So you just want to hold on to it.
Yeah.
Because
I'm
then you'll
holding on
take it
to
to
it.
the island and listen and you'll be like, no!
yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's
I only mean that I think it's for younger people, is all. But go on.
Yeah.
Go on.
I don't know. As far as like, you need an album that's good all the way through.
Yeah.
Um,
Don't skip a song or anything.
yeah, that's hard.
Yeah. I said Aim It Ignite by Fun.
Yeah. This might, I can't answer this right now. Do I have to? Is it like a time like?
Yeah.
I
Answer
have
it
I have
now.
a gun to my head.
You have to.
I have a gun to my
list
head.
11.
I'm getting on the boat, going to the island, and I have to grab an album off the table.
Yeah.
And all my favorite albums just happen to be sitting on this table, right?
Yeah.
You have a Spotify playlist that you're allowed to have, but you won't be able to download new albums because there's no Wi-Fi there.
Oh, yeah.
No Wi-Fi on the island? Oh shit! No, wait. There is Wi-Fi on the island, but you don't know the password. Ah!
So I can't even get a free 30-day trial of anything. Oh man.
It's rough.
We can leave it there. You don't.
Yeah, I guess
I
I'll
didn't
just
really
say.
give an answer. I didn't really
I'll
answer
just
the
say,
question.
for the sake of like making a snap decision, I'll say "When the Pond" by Fiona Apple.
Cool.
I'll regret this.
That would probably be on mine. That's a great album. That
Yeah.
would probably be on my list. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so Craig, what's your story?
I'm trying to think. Okay, so something popped in my head, but I actually don't think I can I don't think I could share that story.
Can you edit yourself while talking? To save names and places?
Oh, I would never use names to begin with, but
Well, why can't you tell it?
I'm just trying to. Well, it just involves somebody else, and I don't want to.
Can you protect their identity? And
No, I don't. No, not really.
I have a cool story. I danced with Craig's sister at band camp, so yeah.
I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think of something.
This
I'm
isn't
trying to
about
think of
bragging.
Something else.
It's a pretty good story, though, right?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I don't think there's any. Like I haven't had the moment. Like I don't think I've had a moment where I've up until right just this moment where I've thought of a story that popped in my head in previous podcasts. I was like, I don't think I want to share that, or I don't think I want to delve into that topic.
Mm-hmm.
So why'd you make the question?
Well, just because I was trying to think of something unique. We haven't really taken the
Trying to make it a
angle
little
before.
bit interesting. God.
But now I'm.
can you give us the like nutshell version of what you were gonna say, or just can't be done?
Well, oh boy. No, I don't.
Probably not.
No, I
That's
don't
cool.
think I can.
That's
yeah.
cool.
Because this podcast will be public. It's not even that. It's not even that interesting. It's just in order to even tell the story. The story this thing would involve somebody else, and then I don't think they'd ever listen to the podcast. But if it got back to them, that would be. They probably wouldn't be happy with me.
Mm-hmm.
So. It'd be a great podcast story there. You guys would be like, what? Now I'm talking up see, that's the stupidest thing you could do is talk up a story that you
We
can't
should.
remotely share.
You must.
We
want
should
to tell
talk-
it. That's exactly what Pepe.
I know. I'm thinking. I do want. No, I really do want to share the story because it's a very interesting topic. But
We should pause the podcast. You tell the story, and then we'll
And then
start
we'll
the
come back on.
podcast to give our reactions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
should we do that? That could be an
and then
interesting
we'll figure.
experiment.
Then we'll determine if there's a way we can convey the subject matter at least, and then use it as a.
This is an
Okay.
interesting experiment.
We're gonna do that.
Let's-
Make sure this son of a bitch is off.
Okay, we're gonna pause, guys, and we'll be back with you very shortly because no time will pass in your head.
This has been sponsored by the Orange Avocado. Oh, no way!
Can't believe it! I can't believe
Your
it.
sister is insane.
So Craig just told us a story, and we understand now why he didn't want to tell it.
Wow.
We all have to go to work now because we had a real life experience outside this podcast that lasted a while because we wanted to hear the details of the story. So you missed out. I bet this is great and not frustrating at all for you listener to hear now.
You're
Yeah.
gonna have to call this podcast like the story we couldn't tell you.
Yeah. Untold stories from the
Tales of the Crypt.
Tales of the Crypt. All right, Mom.
Dude, that was cool in this context that I told the story and everything, but when you actually listen back to this podcast, it's probably going to be really annoying that they have no idea what story I told.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. I won't ever do that again.
Look, Mom, we're on a podcast.
Look, Mom, we're on the podcast.
Mom,
Make
we're on a
pizza.
podcast, damn it!
Pizza. Make pizza. Make-
Guys, thanks for listening, and I just want to mention our sponsors. We have, let's see. The Orange Avocado, a founding sponsor, of course. Raw, vegan, gluten-free desserts. Check them out on Facebook. And then the Speaking of Music show, an audio editorial program that dives deep behind the curtain, taking on questions about the new music of today, while rewinding back to yesteryear. Check them out on YouTube. Also, Timeless Shots, a photography company based out of Ohio. Check out what they do at timelessshots.com. Timeless Shots Photography, capturing moments for all occasions.